Hello, welcome. My name is Chaida. I am a Black conservative content creator and writer. And this is my podcast where I discuss relevant issues surrounding people, society, culture, and politics. Before I dive right into it, I want to put out a quick disclaimer and trigger warning for people who struggle with mental health problems. If you're somebody who struggles with mental health problems, I want you to make sure that you are not alone and that you are not worthless and that you are worth fighting for and that you are loved always. You're always loved, even if it doesn't feel like it. I love you, and I know there are people in your life that love you. And if you're someone that's struggling right now, please know that there are resources out there that can help you and that there are good people who are available to help you nearby. And to be sure that you know that, I'll be sharing some information down in the show's description or up in the show's description. So thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope that whatever you're going through in your life, that everything gets resolved. Okay, I'm going to start off with a scripture. And today, scripture, you can find it in Luke 6. And it says here in verse 27, it says, "But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you." I used to really despise my former foster mother because I really did look at her as the enemy, as as my enemy because of some of the things that she did to me. And over time, it really felt hard on my heart to find ways to forgive her after the years that I spent in the house and what I did after I was removed from her home. It just really triggered me. And just recently, just a few moments ago, you were listening to an audio of a podcast episode that I did going back maybe a year or two. It has to be less than 2 years. I'm not sure on what the timeline frame is. It's the episode is titled "My Fostered Life Story," and I share my foster life with you guys. In that episode, I share things that happened to me prior to coming to foster care and what happened to me thereafter foster care. I use fake names for all of my foster parents, social workers, and things of that nature because I didn't want anyone coming at me later on and be like, "You talked about me in your episode on your podcast and you say some derogatory things about me and I didn't really like that, so I'm gonna sue you." Yeah, I kept a lot of that information private, and I've always debated online whether if I wanted to make any like documents that I've kept over the years, things like court scripts or things, reports from social worker, things of that nature, that if I want to share that online, I know that I'm going to have to block out a lot of things because obviously I want to protect everyone's safety for that matter. But I wanted to show you guys what it really feels like innately to feel like a foster kid. So I think the only way that you guys are going to be able to gravitate towards that is if I show you some documents. And maybe I'll do that in a future episode, or I'll share on social media or things of that nature, just so you can really see what it means to really be a foster kid. Because some of the things that they share on documents, what they share, what social workers and people alike share on the reports that are given to the judge, they don't really align with the reality that comes along with this kid. That comes along with the kid, not this kid, not me. Even though I was the foster kid, I really doesn't really align with the child that's in the care. So, in a recent episode I've done my foster. I can't believe I forgot about it. I do this foster series, um, called Fostered Stories, where I share my personal experiences of what it was like for me as a kid in the system, just in hopes to create awareness and encourage other people to get involved in the local welfare system in a state or city near them. And I believe that in that recent episode that I did in my Foster Stories series, I shared how I went back into kinship care, back to my maternal aunt and uncle, after spending years in the foster care system, and more particularly, I spent the last 2 years while I was still considered in the foster care system, in this third foster home that I'm about to talk more about today. Um, Before I went back to kinship care, and that transition from going from that to kinship care was just really traumatic for me, and I just don't wish that kind of pain on anyone, because some of the things that my foster parent at the time, I'm going to refer to her in this episode as Mary Ann, and I did refer to her as Mary Ann in my fostered life story episode. So that's, I'm going to continue on with that continuity and not make any changes to that. So Mary Ann, I believe, and at my core, she was a narcissist. The reason why I believe she was a narcissist was some of the things that she used to do to me when I was in the home. And before I get into it, we need to define what narcissism is. Well, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it says someone with a personality characterized by an exaggerated self-importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. I think some of this mirrors a lot from my foster mom. When it came to my mental health struggles, she really couldn't sympathize with where I was at. She would never be motherly towards me. She would always be ranting to the social workers that I was doing this for attention and that I just needed attention and that I was trying to bring everybody down, which really didn't do that much in service to me. And she really tried her hardest to make sure that my aunt and I, my maternal aunt and I, had a very severed relationship. And I don't know why she did that, why she tried to pit my aunt against me so much, if she was going to end up being the one forcing me to go back with her. Because then I had to take on the mela that went on between her and I with my aunt, and that didn't really do good for me emotionally and mentally. And even to this day, my aunt and I, we don't really speak, we don't really talk, and when we do talk, we gonna talk about really superficial things. We can't really go into in-depth conversations about life, foster care, mental health problems, because of some of the things that have happened to me, the things that she didn't really help me get through. So I just know that it's just best for me to have this boundary with her, and it's just better to just protect my mental health for it. Anyways, I believe she was a narcissist for a whole host of reasons. One, that unable to sympathize and unable to be empathetic towards me. And one, she always just had this excessive need to feel like she was important, to feel like she was a good person. There were the times when I was in the house in her home where she'd be like, Chaida is one of the worst foster kids that I've had, and I've had 50 foster kids, and I was titled the best foster parent in Montgomery County, Maryland, for this year, that year. And yeah, out of all the kids I've had, Chaida is by far the worst. And she does that to really she did that to really bring me down, to really show people that she is a victim of my chaos. And listen, I'm not going to come at this like I was all perfect, that I was no trouble. I was definitely a troubled teen. During that in that home, I definitely was up to my crazy shenanigans, as all teenagers are at that age, and I did things that were very questionable. I did things that I wasn't really proud of, especially at the time. And I definitely gave my foster parent a run for her money when it comes to a lot of the things that went on in the house. And so I'm not saying this as if I was some perfect angel that could do no wrong. That is not completely the case. I think looking back at it, we were just two broken people being put together. But instead of my foster mom deciding to confront some of her brokenness and trying to work through that, she decided to take it out on me and not take it out on any of the kid. When I was in the home, and I did explain this in my fostered life story episode, by the time I was in the home, her oldest teenage daughter was getting ready to go off to college, and those two were close from what I understand. She always used to say that how her oldest daughter was her right hand, and she, whatever hard work she did, because of her, she would always make sure to give her oldest daughter credit. And then she had a daughter that was about my age. She was like a couple months younger than me. And so I was about to get ready to go into high school when I was placed in her home to begin with. And obviously she had her two teenage daughter, one off ready to go off to college, the other's at home. And then she had two sons, one that was out of the house, was already independent, living his own life. And then she had another son who was also an adult, well into his adulthood, but he was still living at home. He had a job, he was contributing to the rent. And that's all what I really know from that situation. And then you have me and her. And there was a time during my time in the home where she took on fostering a baby, an infant child, because she really wanted to be able to foster and potentially adopt an infant child. And that during that time, she took on a lot of responsibilities. She not only was maintaining a full-time job, she also went back to school part-time to get a psychology degree or an associate in some sort of mental health related field. Maybe not psychology, because I know it's not possible to get like a degree in psychology that is an associate's, but something in that like healthcare realm. She was trying to work towards a psychology degree. That's what I should have let off with. That's what I should have let off with. Yeah. And she was getting her associate's degree. She was enrolled at Montgomery College, which is a community college. She had her job. She was also dating. She was in a serious relationship that then turned into a marriage, and it turned into a marriage rather quickly. Like by the time like they were hitched, they were only been dating for a few months. That kind of took me back. And then at the top of it, she was always like fostering me, and she was fostering me, and she was also fostering this baby that she took on, a baby that she also kind of relied on me to take care of as well. When there were nights where she would drive off to Montgomery County to take some night classes, I would stay home with the baby, not only have to focus on my homework, but also focus on making sure that the baby was taken care of. Because during that time of her life, her husband and her weren't married yet, and they were dating. So he had his own life, he had his own job, he had things to take care of on his own. And then it would just be, and of course her teenage daughter didn't really want to do anything with the baby. Of course, that's natural. And so, but I really doted on the baby, so she really took that opportunity to really make sure that I was the one that took care of the baby when she wasn't. She also relied on me to help her with her homework, because I was allegedly smart and I had good grades, and I tried to maintain good grades. And she had me not only that, to take care of the baby, but she also thought she could have me go through her psychology class or take some notes for her through her psychology class. She claimed to do this to the social worker because she wanted me to have a better understanding of psychology, considering that I had mental health issues that she was very anti against because she didn't really believe in them. But however, to the social worker, she was like, "Oh yeah, Chaida is walking me through this. Not Shay's walking me through it, but Shayda, I'm having her like look through some of my notes from my classes because she needs to make sure that she's good on her mental health, and that she's good on her mental health. When in reality, she doesn't want to put in the work in order to like take those classes. She didn't want to put any or a lot of work into it, so she just had me doing the assignments for her. And looking back, I wish I would have put my foot down a little bit more. I wish I would have stepped down and been like, "Hey, you say you're going to do this. You're going to pay me for taking on your assignments and your homework. You should be paying me." But that's what she claimed she was going to do. She claimed she was going to pay me, but she didn't. And so I was really hurt by that. And then there was a time in my life and where she always accused me, where she would accuse me of hurting the baby, and that really rattled my head because first off, you were turning to me to take care of this infant for you when you go off to night classes. You didn't really ask me why I was doing it, if I really wanted to do it. You just expected me to because you know how I really doted on him. And then things turned when I was starting to show more mental health issues, and she also claimed to my maternal aunt that she didn't feel good about leaving me alone with the baby. And in turn, she was also very emotionally and verbally abusive. I made a note about that here in my journal, and how she was very emotionally abusive. That there were times where she would literally take time to belittle me in front of people, humiliate me in front of people. She would call me names, insult me. She would do everything she can to break my spirit and to tear me down. And that really impacted in how I view myself. And there was this time where I thought that I could, myself, and when that happened, that's when things took a really bad turn for the worse, because I really felt that I would just be better off if I was not in this world anymore. And I really didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I was so desperate to do anything to just numb the pain. Now, thankfully, I am in a better mental health space, and I can advocate for myself better, and I know exactly what I need to do. So yeah, there's that. There was also this excessive need to just be so radicalized everything. When her eldest daughter decided to not return back from college after a year, she stated that something drastic happened in the relationship, and she said that it had something to do with me. I remember instinctively her daughter gave her a letter, and it said something about blaming me for a lot of things that I was putting the family through in the home, and that's why she had to leave and escape. And so my foster mom took that from the eldest daughter that went off to college. My foster mom took that and kind of blamed me that our oldest daughter wasn't around, when I think in reality, and now that looking back, and now that I've taken time for years to make sense of this and make sense of what that part of my life looked like, I think at the core, the eldest, I really had maybe little to nothing to do with the reckoning of the relationship. I really didn't. Maybe her eldest daughter wanted to just do her own things and just use me as a cover, because she didn't want to own up to the fact that she just wanted to do what she wanted to do, didn't want to feel like going to college or partying or things of that nature. Felt like going to didn't feel like going to college and went partying, or just wanted to do her own thing and just using me as a friend, which I think it sucks and it's really bad. It's not really a good way to address your problems. But whatever. I never really thought that much. I tried to, I going forward, I never really tried to think that much of the relationship because I really don't know a lot about what went down with her eldest daughter. She was going through some troubles of her own. I could see it clearly that she was, and she wasn't in the right mind space. But instead of owning up to the fact that she wasn't in a good mind space to be in college, she decided to put up a front and use me for it. And I think, as anything, her my foster mom should have been able to see right through that, but she didn't. She blamed me for some of the things that went on with her oldest daughter, and her oldest daughter didn't really come home for about the remaining of the time that I was in the home. Like, she didn't, which sucked because they seemed to have a very close relationship, and it really is sad that it came to that part. It really is. I'm just gonna sit this down for a second. Why do I share all this? Well, I share all this to note that for all the foster kids who have gone through very similar experiences that I have shared today, I share all this because I want them to know that they are not alone. And I want them to know that they are not crazy, and that there are things that are happening that are beyond their control, and that they have nothing, maybe little to nothing, to do with a lot of the things that are happening around with them, whether that's drama within the foster family or drama within social work, social services, or whatever that may be. I looked at some of the things, a lot of the things that went on with me at the home, and I really did felt for the longest time that I was really the main accommodator, that I was really the main factor. And so that way I felt like there was no other justifiable way to resolve this other than just, and I really am happy that I am far from that girl that I am today. I'm far from that young woman. And I look back, and if there was anything that I could tell 14, 15, 16-year-old Chaida while she was in that home, is I wish that I could go back and I could grab her. I wish I could go back and grab her out of that situation and take her with me, because she really needed a desperate way out. And I really didn't really like how, even now, how my foster mom chose to handle the whole reunifying me with my family. The main reason why she reunified me with my aunt is because she didn't want me in the home anymore. She didn't want me in the home anymore, and she thought it would be good for me to reunify with family. Reunify with family. She made it look like there's a social worker that even after years that I spent in the foster care system, even after I spent the first year being out of my mother's care in kinship care with the same maternal aunt, she decides that it's better for me to go back to that same maternal aunt who can potentially give me back up if she wanted to. And that's why I have such a huge problem with unification being a goal in the American foster care system, because if families are not going to choose to address the trauma, and both the drama and the trauma that comes with that came in the first place before a kid being removed from the home, then they're really going to be the determining factor whether a kid gets placed back into the system. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you so much for watching this episode. And you really didn't have to. And I really appreciate it that you guys took your time to watch this episode and listen to my story. So with that being said, if you are watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing. Please like the video and leave a comment. And if you're watching this on any other platform besides YouTube, please give me a follow, a like, and a comment as well. If you'd like to gain more insight into my life and you would like to know me a little bit better, you can follow me on all of my social media platforms that are provided in each show's description. Also, if you are a returning guest to my podcast, thank you so much. You do not know how it means to me that you're able to go from episode to episode and watch all my content consistently. I love you always. I see you in the next time. Until again, yours truly.